Well, thank you all for being here. I think I've met everyone in the room, but I'm John, and tomorrow will be my 1-year anniversary out here. So it's been just an awesome year, and getting to know each and every one of you, and I'm grateful just for the opportunity here. We're going to be here about an hour today. We're going to cover a very important topic. It may not be the most comfortable topic for each and every one of us, but what I would ask is give it a chance, approach this with an open mind, have the courage to ask questions and be prepared and think through it. We're going to bring up some team members, and what I also want you to know is that there's always resources here for you. This is a group setting. Not everyone may be comfortable speaking in a group setting. I'm always available. We have system EAP resources. We have wonderful chaplains that support us every day. So there's a lot of different ways you can communicate or express yourself or ask questions. Similarly, one of the questions that came up in the earlier session was specific to my department, okay? So I'm PT, or I'm patient access, or I'm IT, or I'm up on the OR on tour, or I'm back in the ER. You may have some department-specific questions. Do I know all the exits? What's the best strategy? If I were to hear something, should I take the stairs? Should I avoid the elevator? If I'm on 3, should I go up to 4? Should I go down to 2? Those are great questions. If at any point you want any one of us, including some of the team members who are going to get up here to speak today, let us know. We'll come to your department and we'll walk through it in as much detail or as little detail as you would like. So please, I want to keep this open. Let's ask a bunch of questions. Let's participate. No question is off the table. For those that will view it later, we are recording this. We will post this on the intranet, I believe, for anyone who couldn't make it today. So at this point, I just want to introduce a couple team members here. From the system, from EAP, I have Miss Jamie, and I'll allow her to introduce herself real quick.
Hello, I'm Jamie Wright. I'm one of the EAP clinicians here at Texas Health. Just want to thank Flower Mound leadership for asking us to be here today. Just want everyone to know that while this is a very difficult topic to talk about, it's very important. But if it does bring up anything you are having a reaction that maybe you didn't expect, I'm going to be here for a while if you need to talk. Like John said, if you are more comfortable talking one-on-one, it's kind of the purpose of having us here today. So. We'll also have our EAP information available in the back. So if you don't know who we are, what we do, please come find me. Love to tell you more about it. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. So if I can clip this thing back on. And also, if you haven't met her yet, Chaplain Rainey is with us. And for those who may not, I didn't know all this, but we actually have, in just kind of doing some research, we have the chaplains are a vital part of our volunteer program. We have 45 volunteers, including the chaplains here, and it's pretty remarkable. But the entire team is here, always available, and so thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of everything we do here. We also have 2 guests of honors. We have some prominent speakers that are going to be with us today, and I'm going to drag out the enunciation of her last name because it took me about a year to finally get it. Similarly, Miss Lori has been working her way through the Air Force here. It is quite decorated, and I always mess up your title, so please tell us your title in the Air Force now.
Chief Master Sergeant.
Chief Master Sergeant Lori Ilizarrez. And you got to roll the R. I know you like that.
Yes.
Yeah, so... All right, can you say that for me?
No.
I didn't. All right.
Give her a year.
I had to practice a little bit on that one, but a wonderful resource for those who haven't had the time to get to know Lori yet. We've worked together the last 4 years in Frisco. Before that, extensive history in facilities, emergency management, nationally recognized consultant, very knowledgeable on a lot of these topics. She'll start it off. And then our very own Captain Lucio is here with us today from Flower Mound, the police department. And we've spent a lot of time together. The thing that really struck me about Flower Mound is the relationship we have with the police department, with the fire department, with all first responders. Sandy and I got together in the wake of Methodist Dallas, everything that happened recently, and even pre some of the events that occurred recently in Allen. And Captain Lucio and his team came right out here, went through the entire building, was with David and our facilities team, ensuring that we had the most secure measures in place, guiding us, advising us, offering up recommendations on how we could be even more safe and more secure. So appreciate you being here, sir. It means a lot to us. Appreciate the partnership. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Miss Lori.
Thank you, guys. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. And you don't have to say Elizaras, but you can say Elizaras or Lori. So thank you again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting us have this opportunity to be able to kind of walk and talk through this. So the other role that I have is a safety officer. So I've been doing this for almost 30 plus years. And one of the things we've always taught you is how to survive a fire. And hopefully you teach that at home. And how do you survive a tornado? Teach that at home. What we're going to do is give you the survival techniques for a potential active shooter. So that's all this is kind of walking you talk through these pieces of that. Thanks for EAP and the chaplains being here, because it is a sensitive subject. Even every day that we hear this on the news, happens close to home, we may know family members, want to make sure you definitely reach out for that. So I am your Emergency Management Program Coordinator, another very long title, EMPC here at Flower Mound. Started about February, getting your emergency management and committee up and dated along with your operations plans and your response plans, kind of walking and talking through those, and you're going to get more education and training as we go along. Our Emergency Management Committee met and kind of went through this presentation already. So thank y'all for coming to the town hall for this. So THR has the policy in place. We're not going to do a different or specific policy for Flower Mound. The one for THR for active shooter response plan is sufficient and has everything that we need in that. So that policy is on Policy Connect, and that's where these definitions are coming straight out of. So an active shooter is a person or persons who is actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in the hospital or on the hospital campus. In many cases, active shooters use a firearm and display no pattern or method for selection of their victims. If there is an active shooter and you see that individual and you have information and it's safe for you to do so, call 911. That's your first and only call that we really want to make sure that you do if you have that information. If you've heard gunshots or anything like that going on, give as much information as you can and immediately turn your phone off, because that means you're pretty close to the vicinity or somewhat nearby. That's what we're looking for from that. If you get a chance and opportunity, you can call Campus Security or 777, which is our PBX, and give that information. But really, we want 911 here. And Captain Lucio is going to kind of explain that. A disclaimer here, any individual must use his or her own discretion during an active shooter event as to whether he or she chooses to run safety or remain in place. However, best practices for surviving an active shooter event, we're going to describe that here, and I kind of want to make sure and go through that disclaimer for y'all. There we go. Thank you, Miss Donna. So preparedness, this is what we're doing here today, is getting you prepared and being able to go through that process. Again, we have EAP here. If you want the phone number, that's located there also if you want to write that down. But they are here and going to stay there for that. And we want to make sure, again, thank you for being here. All right, got it to work. So breathing techniques. Is there anybody heard by 4x4 or breathing techniques? If you do yoga or if you do any kind of concerts, or even if you do shoot guns for fun or for hunting or for anything else, or if you've been in the military, they teach you breathing techniques to try to control that breathing. It also gives you clarity to the situation and what actually happens. So when you get into a situation, your body actually goes to this flight and flight mode, right? So your pupils wide open, brings in all the light, your hearing gets a little muffled, and you're already racing on that heart, and it's already going. like driving on 35 and you can see the lights are all stopping and you're going, not today, please don't hit me from behind, and you don't want to hit him in the front. And you feel it, right? Because the steering wheel gets like this and your just heart rate is going. Breathing techniques so you can see the situation, breathe in. We're going to go through that. You can do that in any of those situations. Before you do a presentation, before you go to a concert, before you go to any of these locations, if you feel that coming on for whatever reason, you can do these breathing techniques. So if you will, I'm going to have you all stand up. And Miss Dawn's going to go through that and click there. And we're going to do this together, and I'm going to walk you and talk you through this first. And you saw the picture with all 4 sides. We're going to inhale, hold, breathe, exhale, and hold. So let's try it out. We're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel a little rush. You're like, oh, I wasn't up yet. Here I am now, right? How'd that feel? Has anybody ever not done that before? Very good. All right. Well, we're going to loop through it. We're going to do it again. This time I'm going to do it with you. I'm not going to talk through it. We're just going to practice it one more time. How's that sound? All right. Feel like I'm in a spa. Okay, we're going to get started. All right, a little bit better. All right, y'all can sit down. Thank you. I used to wear, well, I have one on today, a watch, and the watch every once in a while says, Lori, you need to breathe. I'm like, but I am breathing. And I find myself when I'm really intensely working on something, I'm actually holding my breath, which is not good for you. So good idea to do these breathing techniques as we go through those. All right. So what you're going to hear now are gunshots at real situations in real events. FBI and Joint Commission has put out that just hearing gunshots, we usually hear them at gun ranges, or we hear them on YouTube. You can look them up and they'll give you all the different ranges of guns, but they're in a controlled environment. And they usually have a mic like I have on today, and it sounds very, very different on a gun range outdoors, but in a real situation, it sounds very differently. And if you watch movies, they completely sound different because they're mic'd up. They're trying to make that big impact, especially if it's Schwarzenegger with a big old gun. They want to get that big sound effect. So we're going to go through 2 of them right here. So if you'll just listen to those background noises, but hear what it sounds like with real gunfire. Miss Dawn? Thoughts? I don't know why it does it again. Thoughts? Disturbing, right? Hear the different levels? Those are also different weapons. Did you hear the fire alarms going off? People talking, walking through it. That's what it sounds like. When you hear any kind of sound like that, don't go into that mode of, oh, it's just that, okay? We have a tendency to do that as humans. When we hear something, I think part of us doesn't want to believe something's occurring. So we'll say, oh, that was a car backfiring. Well, this is not the 1970s, and we don't have a lot of cars that backfire, especially our electrical vehicles, okay? Don't make excuses when you hear a sound, okay? If you hear it, react. And that's why we do those breathing techniques to help open our eyes, get our hearing open, get our sound thoughts, and get clarity on what we're supposed to do, okay? That's why we want you to know what those sound like. So what's our survival mindset? Awareness. Gain a basic understanding of the situation. Be aware of your environment, any possible dangers. You'll do this every day when you do risk assessments. You walk out the door in the morning with your whatever 10 bags, trying to get to the car, struggling with wherever the cell phone's going in, and getting in the vehicle and then determining, okay, which way am I going to take it to work today? You risk-base things out probably 900 times a day. During winter storms, you decide you're going to go out, bless you, go out and you're going to make that first step on that icy sidewalk and do the duck walk, right? Did I wear the right shoes? Heels are probably not the one to choose today, right? You risk-base things out all the time. We're asking you to do the same thing here. Take note of the 2 nearest exits in your environment at all times, not just here in the hospital, but anywhere else that you go. A concert, church, malls, schools, anywhere that you go. Do you know where all the exits are? Well, you came in one, right? Where's the secondary one? Always be looking for those environments. Predetermined mindset will help you take a rapid, effective actions. And we just went over what gunfire sounds like in real situations. Preparation, look at your environment through the lens of survival. As you're walking along, do a what if. If I heard this right now, what would I do right now during this situation? I've been this way my whole life. My dad was in safety, so we always had this safety mindset. My daughter I did fire drills with. Yes, with teenagers. Super fun. You should be doing that because they need to know what they're supposed to be doing, but it's always these what ifs. And where are they going to go? Where are you going to meet up with them? Survivors prepare themselves both mentally and emotionally to do whatever it takes to survive. What are you going to do? Are you going to run, hide, or fight? And hopefully you don't have to do all 3 because that's a really bad day, okay? Rehearse mentally and physically. Practicing your plan will reduce the response time and build confidence. Are any of you worried about fire in a hospital? Practice it all the time, right? Race, rescue alarm, confine, extinguish. We know all these things. This is the same thing. Practicing and rehearsing and knowing what to do. Active shooter situations, you quickly determine the most reasonable way to protect your own life. Patients and visitors are likely to follow the lead of employees and managers during an active shooter situation. That's why we got away from calling it a code something. We went to plain language so that individuals could make a decision when they heard that overhead of what's going on. But you are the leaders out there with our visitors and patients on what to do. Okay? There's a very interesting book. It's called Unthinkable by Amanda Ripley. It talks about what individuals do during emergency situations, especially ones that are not kind of that leadership role and don't really know what to do. They'll do odd things like tie their shoe, unlock their computers, grab a purse, grab keys. They'll aimlessly walk around. And then you'll hopefully have that individual go, okay, we're all going this way, and those individuals will follow. That's why we practice over and over again with our leaders. An individual must use his or her own discretion during an active shooter event as to whether he or she can safely retreat from the area or safely remain in place, depending upon the scenario. So walk those what ifs. If I'm right here, right now, what would I do? So run. If you're going to run, run. Get out safe. If there's an accessible path, try to evacuate the premises. Once you make that decision, tell the people around you to try, and you try to get them to escape. Assist them as best you can. So I'm going to use John as an example again. We're in the administrator's office. I hear pow, 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 pow. I'm like, poof. We're going to go, John. He's frozen. Not that he would be, but he's frozen. I'm going to say, John, Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. He's still frozen. I'm gonna go. So us as caregivers, what? We want to help and save, right? But if you're deciding to run, try to sit as you can, but go. Okay? Make that determination. If you're going to hide, if evacuation's not possible or patient needs are vital, or you found a good place to hide and you don't really know what's going on, we may not know the location. We may not hear it, but we hear it overhead. If I don't know where I'm going to go and I've got a good place to hide and I want to stay with my patient and/or, then you're going to lock and barricade the door. You're going to use multiple layers of barricading such as door, desk, cabinets, and chairs. Don't huddle together. Spread out in the room. Avoid being on the corridor walls and doors because that's where the person is walking, right? So we do have sheetrock. We do have life safety. We have double sheetrock in a couple of places, but we don't have anything that stops bullets, okay? Can go right through the wall or door. So don't stand on those corridor doors ideally. Spread out in the room, but barricade it up with everything you got, okay? Turn off the lights, cell phones, radios, TVs, all of that. Anything with a light or a sound, turn it off. If you have to, Sarah, take the batteries out. You really can't turn those things off. Just take the battery out, okay? Your phone, completely turn it off. When we're in these modes, use as managers and leaders, don't start texting your people when you hear something going, "Are you safe?" This is the time when you have to sit back if you're not here and let time slip away. They'll call you. Someone will notify you. Let them be safe. And that's super hard. Time clicking off. Let them do what they need to do. Hiding also leaves the corridors open and no target practice, right? Fight. They say it's a last resort, but if I've got somebody in front of me, we're gonna go down. Okay? That person's in front of me, I'm gonna give it every ounce of everything that I have. That's my choice, right? I'm gonna do everything possible I can, and I'm gonna take it all. I'm gonna bring that table, I'm gonna bring those chairs. If I can get that plaque off, that's gonna go straight to the throat. I got nails, I usually don't wear heels, but it's gonna be all. And if you're all in this room, I really feel bad for that person because we're all gonna fight, right? I'm gonna try to convince you to fight. You'll probably go at those doors. Use anything. I've got a projector thing right now. Seize the opportunity and get everybody ramped up. So you did the breathing techniques to hide, and now that person's potentially there. Now I'm just gonna bring it back up. Talk about whatever gets you riled up for that standpoint, but go at it wholeheartedly. Let it go. When the police arrive, you remain calm and follow instructions. Breathing techniques. It's an emotional day, Lori. Keep your hands empty and always visible. Drop whatever you got. Put the cell phone in a pocket wherever you got it. Whatever, let it go. Hands open, up. That's what they want to see, and Captain's going to go through that. Raise your hands, spread your fingers, avoid pointing. They went this way. No. If they want something from you, they'll ask you. This is when you get to be submissive and listen to instructions. You do whatever they tell you. They tell you go left, you go left. You go right, you go right. Okay? Go down, up, whatever it is. You do exactly what they say, because their goal is to help you. Do not talk, do not grab, do not point. This is not a time. After, hospital's now a crime scene. Our patients are still here. We may not be able to enter this healthcare because now it is a crime scene. But we have patients. You're not going to be able to get back. Probably set up a command center, probably on the Riverwalk, and try to get as much information as we can. We'll be working with the FBI, be working with the police department, whoever's here to be able to do that. But that's the least of their worries. It's now a crime scene. We've got to figure out what's happening and where's everybody at, and they got to clear it. And that takes hours. Suggested videos that are out there if you want to share. A City of Houston Emergency Management Office that kind of started. It's kind of an older one. You've probably seen it here or there. Healthcare industry, a Phoenix training. This is kind of in a healthcare setting. It's all training. Nothing in it has any real situations. And it is a little bit clinical, but it does have some healthcare opportunities. And the really good one I like is the public location. It's at a bar or a grill kind of place. It's an FBI one. It shows you really about, run, hide, fight, and they kind of teach you through that. These are really good ones. If you haven't seen any of these, I highly encourage that. Highly encourage you to bring your friends and your family, let them watch them, have these conversations. Any questions? Well, without further ado, I'm going to bring up Captain Lucio. I appreciate you.
Thank you. So, cool. Working. Good afternoon. Once again, I want to reiterate that it is a very heavy topic that we're about to discuss. As Lori put it, she was covering run, hide, fight. It's the same thing, avoid, deny, defend. So, first thing we need to talk about, I apologize. My name is Henry Lucio with the Flower Mound Police Department. We have been working with your hospital for a very long time. Your leadership by bringing us here to get these practicing and scripting for these events says a lot about the leadership at this hospital. Prior to COVID, some of you may or may not remember, but we used to have busload children over here when we were doing our active shooter training in the summertime with the police and fire, right? We'd bring them to your ER, y'all would do what y'all needed to do, so we all got some practice, right? So anyway, we've been working with y'all for quite some time, and it has been a great partnership with y'all. So we're going to talk a little bit about the statistics as it relates to active shooter events. But first I need to kind of give you another definition that you're hearing on media at all times. Mass casualty incidents. That's kind of like the big umbrella. So all of these, yes, some of these active threat events can fall into a mass casualty incident, but a mass casualty incident is 4 or more people die at that event. So that could be anything from gang related to drive-by to a car accident that has multiple fatalities, and it can be an active threat event. So I just heard that there's been 1,200 mass casualty events this year in the United States, but they're usually presenting those facts right after an active attack. So everybody thinks, oh my, there was another active shooter event. Well, yes and no. Active attack is a subcategory of a mass casualty incident. So when you hear that, and we're going to talk about actually how many active threat events there have been in the last 21 years. And all it is, an active shooter or active attack is 1 or more people working in conjunction that causes as much chaos and carnage as possible in a confined, populated area. That could be in a building, it could be in an outdoor that there's physical barriers, you know, building, it's a open courtyard. It could be anywhere where there's lots of there's a population there, confined, and that's all they're trying to do is cause as much damage as possible. What we know about the attacker is we really do not know much about the attacker. There's not a one set profile. We do know that they tend to have an avenger mindset. That means they believe they've been wronged for some reason. There's a connection to that location that they're going to. With social media nowadays, they do tend to broadcast. You'll see hints in the broadcasts in their social media posts. What we do know is there are some risk factors. Now, once again, bless you, if you see some of these risk factors, or you're checking some of these boxes, that does not mean that an individual is going to be an active attacker. It just might mean that, hey, we need to get them some help with EAP. Supervisor might need to get involved. There might be something else in that individual's life that's going on, and we can try and get them some help before they go into crisis. They might start using a little too much alcohol. They come from a history of violence. They've talked about violence. They are isolated. They're loners. They have suicidal tendencies, negative family dynamics. All this. They may have a criminal history where they talked about they were charged with terroristic threat, assault by threat, other type of criminal charges. They're small criminal charges, but they're red flags, meaning this person may be going down a slippery slope, and we need to say something, because if you see it, somebody else sees it, and we need to say something to get them with some professional help. Because I promise you, if you are seeing it, somebody else is also seeing that. So these statistics that you're seeing from 2000 to 2021, this is not Henry stats. It's from Texas State University, the ALERT program, which is Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training, and the FBI, the Department of Justice. They've been keeping track of all these events since when? Columbine, right? 1999. Columbine happened. Law enforcement realized we needed to change our methods, our tactics. So what did we do? We changed. About 2008, 2009, we realized, you know what? We're not doing enough. We're getting pretty good at stopping the threat, but we need to what? Start tending to the injured. So we all got trained on tourniquets and quick clot and bandaging and stopping the bleed. Well, 2012, fire department took a black eye because they didn't respond to the Aurora movie theater. What happened then? They started playing with us. They started training with us, and now they're integrated into our resource. So between 2000 and 2021, how many events do you think we actually had? Thousands? Hundreds? Thousands? Okay. Well, we're about to find out. And y'all may actually even see a state or two that you want to move to or retire to. Wyoming? Is that 464? All right. So, granted, this is a high number, but because of the way it is, the other information relayed, we were thinking thousands, right? And I totally understand that. So that's why I wanted to explain to you what a mass casualty incident is and what an active threat event is. So, I thought we was going to get there quicker. But anyway, in 2017, another event happened. We talked about in 2012, fire department realized that they had to come and start going in, because there's no way we're going to be able to say this place is cold for y'all to move in and help. So anyway, they started training with, well, in 2017, we learned another, and that was with the Las Vegas shooting. Really and truly, the first responders at that event, it's not police, it's not fire, it's normal citizens that are attending these, or that are at these venues, right? So now there's a big push to teach citizens to stop the bleed, because they actually transported most of those patients at the Vegas shooting. There was, we'll talk about, there's a slide like, but they actually did most of the transport and did most of the immediate first aid and self-aid on those individuals. 98% of the time, 98.5% of the time, there's one shooter. That's going to be important later on, and that's important when she was talking about run, hide, fight. Why is that important? Because if I know there's 98.5% of the time there's one shooter, and I hear shots that way, what should I do? Go that way, right? Go the opposite way. And I'm pretty safe that I'm not going to run into another bad guy, but I need to get gone, right? So, the other 1.5, they work in conjunction with each other. They're in the same general area. This is over the last 21 years. In 2022, we'll talk about that. There was actually 50 events in 2022. But as you can see, from 2000 all the way up to 2021, there were 61 events in 2021. So you see what the trend is, right? It's broken down by decades, where it went from 10 to 25, and now, over the last 5 years, we're averaging 44 a year. 2022, I mentioned we had 50 events. What we've seen from the numbers from 2022 is places of commerce is no longer the leading place of these attacks. It's now open spaces. So that's your jogging trails. That's your, if you live in an apartment complex, that's the common area there. That's here at Parker Square and Flower Mound. where, you know, they have the car shows. That's your 4th of July festivals. That's all these open, you know, chili cook-offs, wherever you may go, that you have these outdoor venues. Movie in the park. Every city has a movie in the park. Music in the park. There's always all these outdoor events. And so now we're seeing there in 2022 only, they had the most incidents. Education, there was 4. Obviously in 2022, that was our Robb Elementary down in South Texas. Still, over the 464 businesses are the leading venues for these attacks, locations of these attacks. Y'all would be in the other category as far as a hospital or medical facility. 58% of the time, there's a reason. We talked about that. They feel that they've been wrong. There's a reason that they're there. You fired me. We argued, and I'm coming back to get even with you. And there's a reason for that person to be there. I received poor medical care or billing. It was billing. There's a reason for them to be there. You see Santa Barbara on this event, there was actually 3 types of weapons used. There was knives, edged weapons, there was handgun, and then there was a vehicle that was utilized in this event. So we always think about pistols or rifles, and weapons or firearms are the leading tool for this type of incident. But it don't be tunnel vision to think that's the only way that they can do it. It could be a baseball bat. Anything that could cause death can be utilized in one of these events. Orlando, Florida. That was the Pulse nightclub. 80% of the injured people on the dance floor, when it turned into a hostage situation, could have been saved, could have survived their injuries had somebody applied a tourniquet or quick clot, some type of a dressing attended to those injuries. And of course, Las Vegas, over 800 were injured and killed in this event. About half was from the chaos that ensued afterward, from the trampling, from the thousands of people that are just going and running and stepping on people. However, the citizens were there providing first aid and transporting all these injured people. They were using barricades, putting injured people on top of barricades, and people were carrying the barricades out of that active zone, hot zone there. New York City rented a truck from Home Depot and just started running over people. So it can be something other than a firearm. Sutherland Springs, this was the one down south where citizen had his rifle, and then he actually went and confronted the suspect, saved lives, but because he started shooting at the suspect, striking the suspect, then the suspect left the location. Suspect ended up committing suicide further down the road. Just some more numbers. This is the average of those 464 that they're, even with that great big Las Vegas, we're still averaging 4 injured and 1 deceased per event. So what does all this mean? Well, I'm about to explain to you that what you do matters and what we do as law enforcement matters. There's 2 things that will increase your survivability, and that's what you do while you're waiting for us to arrive on scene. So what you do is the target availability, and Lori went over the run, hide, fight, and then how fast we get there. National law enforcement response time is 3 minutes. I promise you here in Flower Mound, Texas, it's going to be a lot quicker than 3 minutes. If you live anywhere around here in the North Texas area, I promise you, it's going to be 3 minutes. I can only think of one bigger city that may not make that, but pretty much everybody has been training for over 20 years in this, and if one of these calls come out, they're going to respond. And if you live in a smaller community, I promise you your agency has been training with a larger community to learn these tactics. She talked about Amanda Ripley earlier. Amanda Ripley also determined that everybody goes through 3 stages of stress during a critical incident like this. And their denial, deliberation, and then that moment that you act. So the quicker we can get to the act, the better chances of survivability that you are. In that book that she was talking about, she talked about the people at the Twin Towers during 9/11. They were actually logging off their computer, getting their purses. They were actually doing normal, everyday things, because I looked at you, you weren't panicking. You looked at her, she wasn't panicking, so we weren't panicking. What's that called? Social proofing, right? So as the leaders, or as somebody, we need to recognize, and we need to get out of the denial stage, and we need to go to the act stage as quick as possible, right? You hear that gunfire, we don't need to act like it's fireworks or cars backfire. And we just need to say, hey, that's not right, and we need to act. What we want to do is we want to train your human brain to be like a lizard brain. Okay? Because as humans, we want to think, we want to rationalize, we want to normalize whatever it is that's happening around us. We want to just react. And in order to do that, by what you're doing, this is step one, coming in here, listening to us talk. Now you're getting the information. I promise you, when you leave here, you're going to be looking around, there's that exit, there's that exit. What would I do here? What ifs? We're going to start doing the what ifs. But we want to train your human brain to react like a lizard, because if a lizard's hungry, what's the lizard going to do? Just eat, right? Not going to think about it. Even if the cricket is 3 times its size, it's going to eat. She talked about breathing. We call it in my world tactical breathing. We train every rookie officer out there tactical breathing from day one of the academy. And it does reduce your beats per minute by about 20 beats per minute if done properly. I'm sure somebody out here that has a doctor, MD after their name will confirm that this does happen. And why is this important? Because only professional athletes can operate around 120 beats per minute. That's because they're trained, they're physically trained to be able to operate there. Normal people like us, we can't do that, right? So if we're up there and we can get down to 90, we can start processing more information at 90 beats per minute, right? We'd rather be lower than that, but even if we drop from 90 down to 70, we're going to be able to process that information and make quicker decisions. So that's why it's very important to do her breathing technique. Perfect example, nightclub up in Rhode Island. Great White was playing at this venue. Pyrotechnics to start the show. Going off, well, it catches the ceiling on fire. Everybody thought that was part of the act. What is that an example of? Denial, right? So then what did that happen? What did that cause? It caused everybody to then sit there and watch until finally somebody made the move, and then everybody only knew the way that they came in. Even though there was other exits available to them, everybody tried, and then there was about, right here is where everybody was found. After there's about 100 people ended up deceased from that event. But that was because they were denying that the building was catching on fire. So to get from denial through the deliberation, breathe, like she mentioned, and then shift your emotions. Somebody's coming in here to try and hurt you. So therefore you need to shift that emotion to anger. By scripting and practicing, by thinking the what ifs, that's going to help you get from the denial to the act a lot quicker. And that's what we're looking at. So that gets us to the avoid, deny, defend, or the run, hide, fight. The only thing that I want to stress to y'all is you hear it, I want you to react. Don't deny, don't try and rationalize, don't normalize. This is not normal. When's the last time somebody popped off fireworks in this hospital? So we should not be thinking, is that fireworks? No. That means go the opposite direction. Hide and hope. We do not want you to hide and hope. We want you to be active. in your survivability. This is problematic. Why? Because there's not a piece of furniture here that's going to offer ballistic protection. If you're hiding here and the bad guy comes around the desk, you're trapped, right? So we do not want you to hide and hope. Once again, avoid, deny, defend is identical to run, hide, fight that she mentioned earlier. What I would stress to you is, as she mentioned, anywhere you go, take this anywhere in your life, not necessarily at your place of business. When you go to the grocery store, when you go to that restaurant, when you're at that restaurant, who all knows that by fire code, there has to be an exit in the kitchen? All right, so guess what? That might be where you go to if anything ever happens when you're out eating with your family. Know these things. Know where, when you walk in, I see an exit there, I see an exit there, I see an exit there. Or if there's a kitchen, guess what? I know where that exit is. We do want you to call 911, but that's after you're safe. Let's remove you from that process. Because if you're gone, whoops, let me go back. This is an example of what we want you to, it to look like. Man going in with a gun. He just took off. There's another one. There's another one. And now he's leaving too. That's what we want you to do. Remove yourself from that situation all possible and then call 911. If you're unable to remove yourself from that process and you're going to have to go into the deny entry or the hide aspect of it, then as she mentioned earlier, what's wrong with this picture? We need to barricade that door, right? But just because you're going into another room, let's start looking for secondary exits. What do we have here? Door, and then what do we have here? Ladder goes to the roof. But yet this person is right there hiding by the stair. So that's that tunnel example of that tunnel vision. Heartbeats are up. We go tunnel vision. We can't hear. Do your breathing. It's going to widen up that view. Simple door stops on inward opening doors. Anything like that can help. These guys, they know that they're on a time clock. Why? Because how fast are we going to get here? And then when we get here, they're going to have to pay attention to us. They're like water, path of least resistance. So just by simply having a door locked, they're going to continue on by because they do not have time to waste. That's the trend now. So you covered all that, used everything you can. Let's watch this one and see what they do on this one. Y'all tell me what y'all think they did well here and then what they did not do so well. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. We see that one? So it seems like the group that was up here, they made it out, right? They found an exit. This one is hiding, hoping, which we don't want. Now this guy right here, he was ready to go do some work, right? He was getting whatever he could to go do some work. Now, in the event that your scenario just got even worse, we know we weren't able to leave. We're in a secondary or in a room. We do not have any secondary exits in this room for us to use. Windows, whatever. If it's sheetrock, can I not use a leg to get through the sheetrock to get to the next room that might have an exit, might have a window? We need to be thinking about things like that. But in the event, we got concrete all around us, doors right here. I've barricaded, but I hear attacker coming in. Then we have to change our mindset to Lieutenant Murphy. He arrived on scene to one of these active attackers at a temple. He had his pistol. Attacker had a rifle. Attacker shot him 14 times, but he was not going to die there in that parking lot. So you have to have that mindset. Get angry. And if we have a group, we're going to work, hopefully, right? Yes. If it's by yourself, use whatever you can. Position yourself in the event that attacker comes through. And once again, what you do matters for that 3 minutes, right? Because what are the two things that increase your chance of survivability? What you do and how quick I get there, right? just a quick, and then we're going to jump. Once again, everybody understand, it starts number one priority, and I realize y'all have some patient care issues that y'all have to resolve, and I totally understand that. And I know that the hospital, the leadership team here has done some great work with securing corridors and all that. So you have some great things in place, and I totally understand you may not be able to leave, but that's going to be your decision to make, as it was already mentioned in one of those earlier slides. But we would recommend, if possible, remove yourself from that situation. If not, find a location, deny entry, and start looking for secondary exits. Create your own if possible. Virginia Tech, I'm going to hit on this real quick because there are some good things that people did that saved lives in this event. All right, so gunman starts across campus in a dormitory, comes over to Norris Hall. It's an old building, only two ways in, north and south, old push bar doors. Once he gets in the building, he changes them so that nobody can come in or out. He goes up to the second floor and goes into room 206. 206 had no idea that he was even in the building. So that red is deceased, yellow is injured, and green is alive. Or alive and no injuries. So as you can see, he did some damage in room 206. Then he goes across to room 207. They probably heard the gunfire, I would imagine. I was not there. I've heard Christina Anderson talk, who was actually at this. She was in room 211. I've heard her speak. They did hear, in 211, they did hear the gunfire, but they did not react to the gunfire. So I'm only assuming that 207 is in the same boat. 207 didn't react to the gunfire in 206. Gunman then goes into room 211. By this time, 204, the professor, it's an inward opening door, no locking mechanism whatsoever. Professor's up there holding the door. Gunman tries to get in, can't get in, shoots through the door, killing the professor. However, that little denial of entry right there allowed 10 students to be able to jump out the second story window and survive. 205, the students in that room, they laid down on the ground and put their legs up on the door. Bad guy tries to get in, can't get in, shoots through the door, but they're laying low with their feet up, and everybody survives with no injuries in room 205. It was a complete denial in 205, partial denial. So as you can see, if you're denying entry, it increases your chance of survivability in one of these events. So, let's hit this.
If you're not cool, I'm not walking a bit. Sir? Go. Watching that deputy, your hands right in the seam. I'm always good deputy. You're going to be left with the deputy back. Thank you. Try to relax. Everyone try to relax. I'll take a bullet before you do, that's for damn sure. Just be cool, okay?
So that's what it's going to look like. All we care about is your hands. Follow our commands. Show me your hands, show me your hands. That's all we care about. As she mentioned, if we tell you to do something, we want you to do that. And we'll ask you if we want any additional information, we will ask you. But most important thing, show me your hands, because we're going to know by the look on your face if you're scared or if you're the bad guy. We're going to know by the look on your face. So just hands up. Somebody was obviously recording this one, right? So let's don't record. Let's just keep our hands up. And because last thing I want to share with you is what we've been training on. These are our 3 operational goals that we train every year with fire on, and every agency is mandated now by the governor of Texas. Everybody in Texas has to train on these. And that's stop the killing, that means eliminating the threat. Stop the dying, that's us transitioning into the medical, stopping the bleed. And then rapid evac to get them to a place like this for definitive medical care. Because it's really truly not us that's saving that life. We're we're slowing the bleed, but where are they actually going to survive on the operating table, right? It's not. So the quicker we get them from there to here, increases their chance of survivability. So what does this mean? That means if we do not hear on our radio that the shooter is down, the attacker is down, we're going to go right by you. We're going to the threat. So if you're injured, we'll come back. But that's not our goal. Once we get goal one, then we will transition into medical. We will come back, somebody will come back, but if you know any information you want to share as we're running by you, that's fine, but all we're trying to do is stop the killing before we transition to the other two objectives. I'd like to end, you work in a great place, great community, great location. If you live in this area, anywhere in the North Texas area, you live in a good environment. All of your law enforcement has been training for many, many years. So I don't want y'all to be scared, but I just want you to be aware. This is strictly for situational awareness. It's a difficult conversation, but it's one that's needed, right? We all need to be aware of our surroundings so that way we can act. We all need to script and practice the what ifs, just like Lori mentioned. We got to do the what if game so that way that lizard brain has already been programmed. Your body's not going to go where your mind hasn't been. So remember that. So if you haven't thought about it, your body's not going to react the way you think it will. With that, I'll open up to any questions or comments for Lori and myself. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I've often wondered, when we get outside, how far do we go?
I would go as far as you can go. And that, y'all may have a plan already set up to go to, I don't know, yeah. Well, you know what you have close at the other end of the Riverwalk project? You have a fire station.
Yep.
So, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Are we doing programs like this for public?
Yes, we go around, we teach this to any business that calls. LISD actually mandated this for all their school employees. So we have taught this to all LISD admin, all their teachers at every school here in Flower Mound. So I can only assume that their schools in Louisville and so forth is also doing it because they mandated that.
And I'll be sharing my slides with y'all. We'll have those sent out. I'll probably have standpoints. Have those and share those and get those videos in. So share.
Who lives in this general area? I'm telling you, you live in a good area. So please, I know the numbers are worrisome, and I understand that, but there's a lot of good people that live in this area that will give you the help. If you're running down the street, they're going to wonder what the heck's going on. I promise you, they're going to be trying to protect you if you're running down the street. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Is there an average time between when a situation starts until the shooter is dead?
90% of these events are over within 15 minutes. About 60% are done in, I want to say, 8 minutes.
7 to 12.
Yeah,
I think is the average.
but yeah. All right, if there's no other questions, thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you all again. I know we're creeping up on an hour here. Again, open minds, some courage. I'd like one other round of applause for Lori and Captain. I don't think they want to hear me talk anymore. All right, well, thank you all. Again, any questions, any ground we didn't cover today, please feel free to reach out to me, Lori, anyone of the leadership team. We will be having a drill, okay? So it will be announced overhead as such, okay? So it will be called through the PBX, plain language code 3 times, active shooter drill.